You said this would be the last time. You start fresh. You feel clear, motivated, maybe even a little proud. And then a few days later, it's gone. The routine breaks. The plan disappears. And you're back to the same quiet thought. Why can't I stick to anything? Think about it. How many times have you restarted your life in your head? How many new beginnings turned into the same ending? And here's the uncomfortable question. Is it really lack of discipline? Or is something deeper quietly ruining your consistency? Because here's the truth. Most people don't actually quit because they're lazy. They quit because the system they're using was never built to last. But that's not even the real problem. The real problem is that every time you quit, you start believing something about yourself that you don't say out loud, but you feel it. Maybe I just don't have what it takes. Maybe I'm the kind of person who always falls off. And this is where it gets dangerous. Because once that belief settles in, you don't just lose habits. You lose trust in yourself. Let me be honest. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're overloaded. And your brain is trying to protect you from a system that feels unsustainable. But here's the thing. Most advice ignores this. It tells you to push harder, be stricter, stay consistent no matter what. But if you really think about it, how long does that actually last in real life? A week? Maybe 2? And then everything collapses again. Maybe the reason you can't stick to anything is because you keep choosing systems that only work for your perfect version, not for your real life. Because real life is messy. Your energy changes, your mood shifts, your nights get late, your days get chaotic. And a system that only works when everything is perfect is not a system. It's a trap. And that matters more than people think. Because every time you fail inside that trap, you think it's your fault, but it's not. It's the design. Now here's what most people don't realize. Consistency is not built on motivation. It's built on friction. The harder your system feels, the more your brain resists it. Not because you're weak, but because your brain avoids what feels heavy or unclear. So you don't quit because you lack discipline. You quit because your system requires too much effort to maintain. And this is exactly why willpower never lasts. Because willpower is expensive, and your brain spends it carefully. So here's the real shift. And this is the part nobody talks about. You don't need a stronger version of yourself. You need a lighter system, not more pressure, less friction, not bigger goals, smaller entry points, not perfection, repeatability, because it's not about how hard you can go for a few days. It's about how easily you can come back, again and again. And the difference is huge. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Most people build habits like this. They decide to fix everything at once. New routine, new schedule, new identity. It feels powerful, but it quietly creates pressure. And pressure creates resistance. So what happens? One missed day feels like failure, and that failure breaks the system. But there's a better way. Instead of building a system that depends on perfect execution, build one that survives imperfect days. This sounds small, but it changes everything. Start with one action that feels almost too easy. Something you can do even when you're tired or distracted. Not because it's impressive, but because it's repeatable. Because the goal is not to prove something. The goal is to stay in motion. And here's the mistake most people make. They underestimate how powerful small, stable actions become over time. They think, this is too simple to matter. But here's the truth. Complexity breaks. Simplicity scales. If you can show up in a small way consistently, your brain starts to trust you again. And that trust is what builds discipline. Not intensity. Not pressure. Trust. And once you have that, everything changes. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Because sticking to something is not just about the action. It's about identity. Every time you follow through, even in a small way, you send a signal to your mind. I'm someone who shows up. And your brain starts to align with that. But every time you create unrealistic expectations and fail to meet them, you send the opposite signal. I can't rely on myself. And that's where most people get stuck. Not in the habit, in the identity. So instead of asking how to stay consistent, ask something better. How do I make this easy to return to? Because the real skill is not never falling off. It's getting back without drama, without guilt, without overthinking, without starting from zero. And here's the good news. This is learnable. You can design your life in a way that supports you instead of constantly testing you. And if this way of thinking feels slower, more realistic, that's the point. Because fast change feels exciting, but stable change feels calm. And calm is what actually lasts. If this makes sense, and you want more clarity without pressure, stay here. Now let's go deeper. Because there's one more layer most people ignore. Recovery. Nobody talks about recovery in habits. They talk about starting and pushing. But here's the truth. Your system is only as strong as your ability to recover from breaks. Because breaks will happen. Life will interrupt you. Your energy will drop. Your focus will disappear. That's normal. But what's not normal is turning one missed day into a full reset. And here's what changes everything. Create a minimum version of your habit. The version you do on your worst day. The version that keeps the chain alive. Because once you remove the pressure of perfection, consistency becomes possible, and your brain stops fighting you. Think about it. Would you rather have a perfect routine that collapses, or a simple one that quietly holds your life together? Because once you see this, you can't unsee it. You don't need to become a different person. You need to stop building systems that only work for someone you're not, and start building ones that work for you, as you are, in your real life. Not ideal life. Real life. So the next time you feel that familiar thought, I can't stick to anything, pause and ask yourself, is this really about you? Or about the system you keep trying to follow? Because the truth is, you don't have a consistency problem. You have a design problem. And once you fix the design, consistency stops feeling like a fight. It starts feeling natural, quiet, stable, and sustainable. So don't try to change everything today. Just make it easier to show up tomorrow. And tell me honestly, what's one thing you keep restarting that you're ready to finally do differently?